So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Starmer not putting up taxes on the top 5% of earners and being questioned on trust. Rigby does like a pretty mid job here in terms of she has him and then she just lets him go and then she moves to a fluff question. Drives me nuts, honestly. So let's have a listen.
To look at the record of the individual, in my case, my record at the Crown Prosecution Service, I arrived there and said we need to reform, and I reformed. I went to Northern Ireland.
But do you think that's
I went to Northern Ireland and said we would change the police service in Northern Ireland to make sure that both communities had
do you acknowledge,
respect.
So
and I changed the Labour Party.
If you've done something...
He just defaults to, I changed the Labour Party.
...as in CPS, where you followed through on promises, why is there a trust gap between you now as Labour leader and the...
I mean, looking at his record as, head of the CPS, they tried to deport someone to the US who is neurodivergent because he hacked American computers, and in the end, Theresa May blocked it. So, the idea that, we should look at his record at the CPS, that's fine, but you won't like everything you see there. So when you mention his kind of feats at the CPS, and he did a very good job when it came to grooming gangs and things like that. When you look at his record at the CPS, there are some really good things in there. There are some really bad things in there. And so when you look at the good, you should look at the bad as well. And when you look at the bad, you should look at the good. It should be a nuanced review of that kind of stuff.
Public.
I think going to the CPS and following through on what I said I'd do was important. Looking at the Labour Party and seeing that I've changed the Labour Party. And I think that if you now were to ask people, why are you now inclined to think about voting Labour where you didn't just a few years ago, most people would say because it's a changed...
I think most people would say that's because the Tory party are washed. I think that's what most people would say. That's something John Curtis has said. It's not necessarily Labour gaining votes from the Conservatives, it's the Conservatives losing votes. And because of our crappy system, it's either one party or the other that wins. So that's the way I think people see it.
OK, so
that's my mission.
I think that this is pertinent for you because you said in that speech it's disrespectful for Sunak to say the economy turned the corner when taxes are higher. But isn't it also disrespectful when you promise people, for example, to raise income tax for the top 5% of earners, and then you ditch that when you get nearer to power? Now, there might be good reasons for that, but doesn't acknowledging that you have broken some of the promises you made go some way to fixing these trust issues that you have?
And so this is facts. He has broken these promises. We've gone over it before, despite the spin merchants being involved in that and trying to, downplay that. We covered their video on it, and it's clear that he has broken pledges. He has broken promises. He talked about, immigration, a dignified immigration system. Now he's talking about cutting net immigration.
You've just totally avoided that.
Let me take that head on, because there are a number of pledges I made when I was running for Labour leadership. Most of those are still in place.
That's not true. That's cap. That's cap. The only ones he's got are the vague ones, mostly.
They're the building blocks of what we've now put in place. Some of them have changed. And this is an issue that's important, because the reason they've changed is because we can't afford to do them anymore.
So we can't afford to increase taxes on the highest earners. That makes no sense.
I said that we should abolish tuition fees. We can't, now the damage has been done to the economy, particularly by Liz Truss.
You could raise taxes.
It is not possible to do that.
You could raise taxes on the top 5%, and you said I don't really want to get into the policies. What I want you to acknowledge is that part of the trust issue is also about things you said as Labour leader.
I totally disagree with you, and I'll tell you for why. I think it's more important...
He's very good now at looking more stern and looking like he's answering the question. Let me be clear, I'll be direct, that kind of stuff. But he never actually answers the question.
To stand in front of the electorate and say, I'm sorry, I can't now afford what I said before because of the damage that's been done to the economy.
Why can't you afford to raise taxes for the top 5% of earners?
This is not to simply stick with something.
He's literally just going off talking points here. He's going off talking points in his head, and he's not even talking about that specific pledge. He doesn't mention it, I think, in this whole clip.
Something which you can't afford.
Well, you can afford to raise taxes on higher earners, can't you?
What I'm saying to the electorate is this.
Look at this. He's just reading stuff off. It's like he's reading off a teleprompter.
I'm going to tell you in advance of the election what I don't think we can afford to do. I'm not going to tell you that you can have everything and then break a promise after the election. I'm going to level with you now. There are some things that we now can't afford because of the damage done to the economy. I think that is basic honesty with the electorate.
I would just say, if I were her, OK, fine, you're going to refuse to answer the question on taxes, on raising taxes to the top 5% of earners, and you're saying we can't afford to raise taxes, which doesn't make sense. But okay, we'll move on to something else because you clearly don't want to answer that question. That's how I'd end it.
Use this speech to talk personally about what shaped you.
Yes.
And so she had him on the ropes here, and she just let him go. She just let him go. Honestly, it's so embarrassing. Especially when you look at this, right? When you look at his actual trustworthy rating, he's, people see him as more untrustworthy than they do trustworthy. And he was very close, actually, to leveling out kind of around 2 years ago. So 21st of February, 2022. And then, he did level out again at 9th of October. And then it's just kind of just spiraling out of control. And I think people don't trust him. And when you look at answers like that, you can see why. You can see why people don't trust him. It's a bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. Obviously, there's a lot of don't knows here. So either these bars can actually increase or decrease. But it's a bit embarrassing, especially when you see stuff like this.
I asked Keir Starmer today about Labour's decision to rule out any VAT rises in the next Parliament. I put it to him that the official forecast from the OBR, forecast can be wrong of course, but the OBR suggests public spending cuts are unavoidable, painful cuts to unprotected government departments. Keir Starmer told me there would be no austerity under Labour, but there would be tough decisions.
And so you can call it what you want. You can smoke the truth pack if you want and say, oh no, we're not doing austerity, guys. It's just tough choices. But, it has a name. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Austerity by any other name is still austerity. So, you can spin it as tough choices or difficult plans or whatever. It's still austerity. We know what it is.
I think what exactly that means is something we're going to have to tease out over the next few weeks.
And they'll be on to him on that, so if he's not careful, he's going to look even more stupid. But that's the point. There's a reason why his untrustworthiness rating is so high. It's because he can't answer a straight question for the most part. They're talking about his broken pledges. All he does is go back to his tuition fees and things like that. He's not talking about the non-financial stuff like abolishing House of Lords, for example, and he's not even talking about the tax rate rises. He can't answer the question on that one. It's embarrassing. And the Labour frontbenchers go out there and they look embarrassing. And some of the backbenchers who want good jobs, they go out there and they look embarrassing as well. It's just honestly, it's crazy to me that this is still ongoing. But this is the best he's got. And I don't know why they dropped their policy on, not taxing the top 5% of earners, despite, what other people will tell you in the space, that they haven't dropped this pledge, even though you can kind of see clearly he has. He refuses to acknowledge that he's dropped it. Maybe you can spin it. Maybe it's something I'm not seeing here. But it looks clearly like it's dropped, especially when Rachel Reeves is talking about no tax increases. Going back to the old 50p tax rate would be a tax increase. So again, I genuinely am a bit baffled. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.